Hi, and welcome to episode 19 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. Today is Monday the 14th of December 2015, and my name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown across the internet. And I'd like to say hello to any returning viewers and welcome to any new viewers out there. This week there's been very little knitting, unfortunately. While I was uploading the last episode, I got the phone call asking me to go and help with a house move, so I went on Tuesday morning, took a train for a few hours and got a few rows of my cardigan done, and then the rest of the week there's been none. Even on the coach and the train coming back, I didn't have the energy to do any knitting. So I do have some acquisitions, however, and I wanted to talk about my yarn goals for the past year and also for the year ahead. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, but it's probably going to be a shorter episode than normal. So my first acquisition is from the wonderful Hannah from the Rose Hip Knits podcast. She's recently opened up an Etsy shop where she's selling her hand-dyed yarns. So I placed an order with her and I got this wonderful skein. So this is called Smarties in the Sea on the Oz Sock base, 80% Australian Merino, 20% nylon, 418 meters and 112 grams. So it's a light blue yarn with speckles of colour, and got the Rose Hip Island business card, and I also got a skein of this, which is called Flower Bed, and it's a fingering superwash wool Australian Merino cross. So I'm not sure exactly what Merino cross is, but it sounded like something fun to try. And it's a pale mauve colour, maybe? Purpley, pinky, with some beige and yellow and some speckles. So I don't know yet what these two will become. Probably two different projects. I have a feeling that the Smarties in the Sea will become socks, and this other one may become a shawl because it has less speckles in it, and I think it'll pair up nicely with a cream yarn. So we'll see. Hannah also sent me some other wonderful bits and pieces, so I won't show them all, but she sent me a wonderful little bag of minis. So these are very generous 10-gram minis of her hand-dyed sock yarns. So these will be going into my blanket. I haven't opened it yet, but there's some beautiful colours in there, so I'll be playing with those soon. And she also sent me some fabric with spools on it, so I'm going to make myself a pouch of some sort with that. So thank you, Hannah. They were wonderful additions to my order. And if you're looking for a new Australian indie dyer, then go and check out Rose Hip Island on Etsy. I also had a swap package arrive. So a few weeks ago I was contacted by Celine, who is, and apologies if I pronounce it badly, but Circe Bells B. She's a French knitwear designer and she's very active on Ravelry, and we've been sort of in touch with each other on Instagram and Ravelry over the last little while, and she suggested doing a swap. So she sent me an amazing package, and again I won't go through all the things that she sent me, but I'll go through some of the yarny bits and pieces. So she sent me this amazing skein of sock yarn, and she said that she thought that these colours were the sort of thing I like, and she's absolutely correct. These oranges and browns and reds are absolutely my kind of thing. So I'm not sure yet exactly what I'll do with it, but I'm tempted to do socks, but I might think of something else a little bit more creative. Might actually be good as a sockhead hat. Something to think about. She also sent me a sample of Eucalan wool wash. I've never actually used Eucalan before, so this is a lavender scent, and I'm looking forward to trying that one out. There's a very cute little sheepy keyring, and I love sheep, so this will be going onto my keys very, very soon. She also sent some zings. I've been thinking about getting myself some Zing Knit Pro needles, just to try them out, see what they're like, and now I have some. Thank you, Celine. It's absolutely very thoughtful and exactly what I need. So I'm actually tempted to swap these out onto the socks that I'm knitting at the moment, but then I might mess up my gauge, because I find that different materials in knitting needles affect my gauge, but I'll see. She also sent me this very beautiful bag, Agatha Paris, it says on there, which has a huge bunch of minis in it. I haven't read through all the labels yet because I just got it this morning, but there's some very, very beautiful skeins in here, so they'll be going into my blanket. And it's nice to have some lighter colours as well, because I've been using quite a few dark colours in my blanket recently. And there was also some tea and a beautiful card and other bits and pieces. So thank you very much, Celine, for a wonderful swap package, and I'm hoping that mine arrives before the holidays, but you can never be too sure with mail at this time of year. So then on to goals. At the end of last year, I set up a list in my phone's reminders app, into which I wrote some different things that I wanted to try to achieve this year with knitting and crafting. So I'll have a bit of a read through some of the things. I've got them on the screen, so I'll just be looking off to the side. But I think it was Melinda from the Yarn Woman podcast who was talking about her goals at the end of last year that made me think about listing mine out. I usually have a few general life goals that I try to plan out for a year, but this was the first time that I'd done some knitting goals. So one of my goals was to knit a jumper, and I did that. I had a bit of a failed jumper that I knit up early on this year, but I still wear it. I also knit 2 fingering weight pullovers, which I'm very happy with, and I've shown them on the podcast before. And I also knit a woolly vest, so I think that counts. A second goal of mine was to knit 6 pairs of socks, and I've actually managed to knit 14 pairs of adult socks and 2 pairs of kids socks, so that goal was well and truly taken care of. I also had the goal of learning to spin on a wheel, so I had just received my spinning wheel at the end of last year, and I've definitely been taking the time to practice different types of spinning techniques, and I also had the goal of learning to ply yarn, so I've done that as well. I've still got a long way to go, but I think that the yarn that I'm creating is definitely knittable. I've made some items, some garments out of them, a shawl and a cowl, so not garments, accessories. But it's definitely a goal that I will keep with in the next year, is to just try out different techniques and get better at the consistency of my yarn. So another goal of mine was to dye yarn, and I've had a go at that in the last couple of months, which has been a lot of fun, and I've got 5 skeins that are just waiting for me to to try out some more, and I will definitely be keeping up with that in the new year and trying out some new techniques. So another goal of mine was to visit some yarn shops, and I've been to 2 in the past year that I hadn't been to before. Probably not enough. Actually, that's not true. In Finland I went to quite a few yarn shops that I hadn't been to, so yeah, I've probably been to quite a few new yarn shops, so I think I've achieved that goal. I also had the goal of starting a podcast, which I've done, and I'm up to episode 19, so I think that's going pretty well. And I didn't have them as goals, but a few other things that I've achieved this year has been to try out Estonian lace, which I did with the first time knit along when I started up this podcast, and I've been exploring Australian indie dyers and pattern makers, and I started my memory blanket, which has been going pretty well, and I've also been discovering more Australian and international podcasters. So there were a few goals that I didn't achieve this year, but I might need to do them next year. So that was one of them, was to put up a pattern on Ravelry, and the shawl that I was working on recently just hasn't been touched while I've sort of been in and out of Sydney, so I'll get onto it in the new year and hopefully have it out in January or February. I also had a goal to knit a lightweight cardigan, which I have cast on fairly late in the year, and that's not going to happen this year, but it will happen probably January. I'll get it finished. I also had the goal of trying to knit 2 at a time socks, so I need to get onto that at some point and give that a whirl, see if I like it. I think I need to find myself a cuff down pattern, because I'm not that fond of knitting toe-up socks, but I don't know, maybe I should just give it a go and use whatever kind of pattern I can find. So for 2016, some possible goals that I'm thinking about adding onto my list is, the first one is something that I had intended to do this year, but it wasn't strictly a goal, but it was to knit a cardigan called Taskutakki. So this is from a Finnish knitwear designer, Veera Välimäki, and she has got quite a few patterns available in English and Finnish, and I think this book has been translated into English recently, so I'll put the name down here if I can find it. And it's called Lankaleikki, which means yarn play, but I think the English version of this book is called Colour Play or something like that. So this is the cardigan that I'm thinking about knitting. So that's from the side, and then there's a little diagram. So it's a fairly long cardigan with pockets, and I've been wanting to get this onto my needles for ages, but it's knit from sport weight yarn, and there aren't too many. It's a bit hard to find sport weight yarn in Australia. There's a few indie dyers who do sport weight yarn, so I'm just waiting for that absolutely perfect colour to come along so that I can buy a cardigan quantity, because I think I'll need quite a few skeins. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it, but I think I'll get this first cardigan out of the way and then I'll order that yarn. One of the other 2016 goals that I'm thinking about is to knit something for charity, possibly for animals. I like the idea of knitting a penguin jumper or a native animal pouch, so therefore looking after native animals when they've been injured, or for instance kangaroos, if they're hopping along the road and they get hit by a car, they sometimes have a joey in their pouch, and they use knitted pouches to keep the joeys sort of comfortable, feeling like they're in their mother's pouch still. So I'm thinking about doing some of that. I'm also thinking about doing some Intarsia colour work, just to try to get a different kind of colour work under my belt, as well as brioche. So I don't think I'm going to be too puzzled by brioche, it's just that I haven't gotten around to giving it a try yet. I also want to knit a skirt, and I think that will probably happen closer to winter. And I want to knit some scrappy socks from all the odds and ends that I'm getting left with from the minis that I've been swapping and receiving. I want to join them up and then create some scrappy socks. I also want to spin a pullover quantity of yarn, so it might just be a small pullover, so maybe 150 grams. It shouldn't be too much of a stretch, but I just need to get my consistency with my yarn close enough so that it doesn't end up a massively lumpy, bumpy pullover. I want to experiment with dye techniques, and I want to visit more yarn shops, and maybe I could finish my blanket. It might be a little bit ambitious, but it could be possible. I should actually measure it before I put it on my goals list and just look at how many squares it's taken so far before I commit, but it could be fun. So what I'd love to know is if you have any yarn related goals for 2016. Maybe you're interested in doing brioche. I'd love to hear, because then if there's enough people interested in a particular technique, or if there's a theme happening, then I could set up a knit along or craft along in the new year and we could try it out. So if you want to pop over to the Ravelry group, and I'll set up a thread about 2016 goals, and if you want to post, just describe something that you're interested in doing, or write a list, or even if it's just one thing, then that's okay, and I will draw from that thread, and somebody will get these Chatham Designs stitch markers. So for those who have been following along on the podcast for a while, they'll know that I gave away a set like this for the first time knit along. So these were a custom order that I placed with Chatham Designs to get the yellow and black from the Give Me a Crown logo into these stitch markers and the Progress Keeper. So I love using these stitch markers when I'm knitting because they don't get in the way and they're very well made. So you do need to be a member of the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group to enter, and one entry per person. And because it's 2016 goals, you might want to have a bit more of a think about it, so I'll keep the thread open for a month. So I'll close it up on Sunday the 10th of January 2016 Sydney time, or rather I'll close it off on the Monday morning before I record. But get in there, share some of your goals. It could be some kind of yarn that you want to buy, it could be a project, it could be a technique, and I'd love to hear what you're planning to do. And that's it. It's just been a lot of talking rather than showing stuff, but hopefully it's got your brain ticking over about some ideas that you can set goals for yourself for next year. And that's it. So I hope you're well. I hope you're getting much more knitting done than I am, but I'm sure that in the next week I'll be getting a lot more done. I'll record again next Monday, and then most likely I'll have a bit of a delay just between Christmas and New Year's. I might be able to squeeze in one episode, but we'll see how we go. I expect I'll be out of Sydney again, so cool. That's it. I'll see you soon.